What's going on, guys, and welcome to my first new series Doctor Who review, or at least not with Jodie Whittaker, because I've already reviewed those. I was reviewing the Jodie Whittaker ones as they were being aired, but I'm now going back series 1 to 10 and reviewing all the episodes. We're basically picking them out of a hat, or it's actually a TARDIS. You'll see at the end of this video, if you haven't seen the video I did on the weekend announcing this, where I picked out today's episode, which is Night Terrors, the Matt Smith 11th Doctor story. So that is the story for today, and at the end of this review, I'm going to pick out the next story. It's completely random. I'm just going to randomly pick out, I don't know what it is until I open it up, and we'll see what episode we will be reviewing, or episodes, if it's a 2 or 3-parter, for next week. Anyway, we're going to get started with the cast. This is Night Terrors by Mark Gatiss. Alright, so we start with Matt Smith as the 11th Doctor, who is pretty good in this one, I'm going to say. I mean, he's definitely nothing incredible, he's just kind of his usual self here. He has a few pretty funny and awesome moments, like, when he's at the start, he's wondering what's going on with this kid, saying that, oh, there's all these, all his fears have been locked up in this cupboard, and he's like, what's going on with this cupboard, and he points the sonic screwdriver at it, and the sonic screwdriver comes up with, like, crazy readings, and he's just in his face, you can tell he's like, he goes from being like, oh yeah, whatever, stuff in the cupboard, then he's like, oh my god, there's actually something really, really dangerous and really terrifying in this cupboard. And he plays that really well, and generally throughout the whole story, he's very good. He has nice, funny moments with Alex as well, who's kind of almost the companion for this one, because Amy and Rory are off on their own for this one, really, for most of it. So Alex is kind of the companion here, I guess. He's the one that's with the Doctor a lot. And they have actually really good chemistry, I think. I think they work really well together. So, yeah, all together, I think Matt Smith is pretty good in this one. Karen Gillan as Amy Pond is good here. The companions of Amy and Rory don't stand out too much in this one. Also, we've got Arthur Darvill as Rory Williams, of course. Like I said, they don't stand out too much. This is very much more focused on the Doctor, Alex, and George, the little kid. Amy and Rory kind of get thrown into this house. They go in the elevator and they magically appear in this house, which is all strange. It's all like wooden, you've got wooden pans and wooden foods, and it's really weird, and the glass eyeballs. And they're kind of there to kind of show us what's going on in the cupboard. It ends up being in the cupboard, the doll's house in the cupboard, and that kind of whole thing with George's dreams. And George is this crazy alien who makes, fears in his mind, and he kind of makes them a reality in the cupboard. So they're kind of setting up that, but generally neither of them do a whole lot. They're just kind of setting up stuff for later on. And with that, both Karen and Arthur are good in their roles, but yeah, there's definitely nothing, blow your mind sort of, with this episode. Alright, so now we're going to get into the good and the bad, starting off with the good. We're doing this, I'm going to just do this basically like I do the classic series, so we'll have the cast at the start and then the good and the bad. So, starting off with the good, the Doctor, Amy and Rory knocking on doors. I think it's just funny seeing the Doctor doing kind of, human type things, going and, making house calls, knocking on doors, trying to figure out information. It's just very interesting because he's not human. I mean, he looks human, but he very much doesn't act human. He's very strange and just doing these things that, most other people, I mean, Amy and Rory do it as well, and they're a bit more, I'd say they're a little bit more, I don't know, there's just this feel of him door knocking, and just, especially with Matt Smith's kind of persona and how he acts, it's just very interesting, and I found that whole kind of scenario at the beginning quite interesting. Amy and Rory in the doll's house, like I said before, they get chucked in there pretty early on, and they're really the ones that guide us through the doll's house. They don't really know what's going on, but yeah, it's interesting seeing them go through. It's very creepy, very quiet at times until you have like the jump scares with the eyeball, with the dolls when they find them. But especially at the start, Amy and Rory are just, it's quite dark. They've got torches that keep flickering out. They're finding weird and wacky things in this doll's house. It's like a 1700s, house, and but things still aren't coming together. It just doesn't feel right, because you've got some electricity, and then you've got the wooden pans and all that, and it's just very intriguing, and I think it's actually quite a clever little thing that Mark Gatiss has got here, and yeah, just generally some good stuff there. Now, the Peg dolls, I think, are really creepy. Now, I've heard mixed opinions on these. I've actually heard a lot of people say that they don't think the Peg dolls are that scary at all. I don't know what you guys are watching, but I find these peg dolls really creepy, and I don't know why. I think it's a mix of just the look of them to start with. They're dead stares, they're massive heads, and they're like skinny bodies, along with the really raggedy hair. Then you've got the transformations when people get turned into the peg dolls, which, you know, you only really see with Amy and, is it Percival? Percival's especially, I think, is the more detailed and graphic one that we see, and that's really creepy and terrifying. Then you've got the giggles. I mean, I think I am actually kind of going into my next thing here. You know, the girls' giggles and the look of them. The little girl giggles when the peg dolls are around. I just think that's really creepy. Then you've got the music that's playing, which is also just a really sinister, scary, creepy music. It's just, I really think these peg dolls add a lot to this story. Other people seem to have kind of the opposite effect. They think that these peg dolls are just kind of crap. I personally don't think that. I think they're really creepy. They do seriously scare me a little bit. I mean, now that I've seen them a few times, it doesn't really. But especially the first couple of times I watched this episode, those peg dolls are creepy. You can't deny it. And yeah, I think they're actually, for what they are, they're pretty effective. The realization that Alex's wife can't have kids, that whole kind of scenario playing out. Alex is getting annoyed at the doctor. He doesn't know what's going on. The doctor kind of, I think at that point he kind of knew what was going on. He at least had a inkling. He was like, you know, there's stuff going on. He was reading through that book. He was like, this is you after Christmas, and Claire, his wife, with the kid. But then like 2 months before that, she's got no baby bump or anything, and he's like, there's something not working here. So I'm pretty sure he pretty much figured it out. But yeah, I just love the moment where Alex just bursts out, Claire can't have kids, and the realization and the look in his eyes, brilliantly acted, I think. Just really sad, and like, really, we're all like, what is going on? And then we learned that George, he's actually this, I think they call him like a Tenzer or something. I got a bit confused at first. I heard Tenzer when I was watching this before, and I was like, Tenzer? Isn't that what's in Series 11? No, that's a Stenzer. I was like, Tenzer? It's very similar. Literally add an S on the beginning, and I'm pretty sure that's it. But yeah, that whole realization for Alex was pretty crazy. Finally, for the good, I've just got Amy being turned into a peg doll. A pretty crazy moment. I mean, I don't remember what I thought when I first saw this episode, but I imagine it would have been one of these, especially because it happened so quickly. You know, we had Percival's kind of transformation, which was quite detailed. I mean, yes, it was the first one, so I guess they're trying to show you a bit more of it. Times after that, you know, they don't need to show you all that, but with Amy, you barely saw anything. She pretty much just changed instantly, and yeah, it was a bit quick, and I thought, yeah, I bet even when I first watched this, and when most people first watched this, they didn't think that that Amy would have been, you know, that wouldn't have been the way that Amy went. So yeah, maybe a little bit meh in ways, but I still think it was fairly effective, and you know, it was something interesting to add to the episode for sure. Alright, so on to the bad. There are a couple of things to talk about here. First of all, Percival melting into the floor is a bit weird and looks a bit crap. I mean, I'm not going to say the CGI is terrible, because it's not really. It's just kind of a person melting into the floor. It's not a difficult thing to do, I don't imagine, and I mean, it doesn't look bad, but there's just something a bit weird about it, especially when you just see his face like going under. It just looks a bit weird. It's played off a bit comedy-like, and I do feel like this story, in some ways, this episode is a little bit weird with kind of how it wants to be. A couple of times it's a bit comedic, other times it's really quite scary, other times it's just, I don't know, it's the tone's a little bit off in this, I think. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not awful, but I thought that melting scene was a little bit strange. And then the ending, it's another one of those saved by love ending. Now, to be honest, I actually like it here more than I do in a lot of other episodes. For instance, closing time, the saved by love ending doesn't work for me at all. Here, I don't really like it, but I don't hate it either, because I like how it's a realization, you know, you got the whole thing of the Tenzer, George, he's kind of reached out to Alex, became, you know, Alex's son, because this alien, they don't like being alone, I think, something like that. They want to be loved, they don't want to be, you know, taken away, they want to, all this sort of stuff, they want to be a part of something. And when Alex realizes, you know, this isn't my son, this is some weird alien creature, he's a bit iffy about it. But then he finally, when George yells out "Dad" when he's being surrounded by the peg dolls, and Alex comes running over. I think it's a really powerful scene. The fact that he just pushes over the peg dolls is a bit strange, because surely aren't they going to turn him into another peg doll? I don't really know, but yeah, I like the scene, but at the same time, the Saved by Love thing does undermine it quite a bit. Alright, so a rating for Night Terrors. I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. I actually think I like this one quite a bit more than most people. A lot of people seem to regard this as a pretty dire episode. I don't see why. I think it's just kind of average. For me, maybe a little bit above average. I think I did have this rated at like an 8, but I have put it down to a 7.5. Just because that's what I feel like. I feel like it should sit around about there. But yeah, a 7.5 out of 10 for Night Terrors. Now, before we finish, I'm gonna switch the recording. We're gonna go over to the TARDIS box, and we're gonna see which episode I'm gonna be reviewing next week. Alright, so I've got the TARDIS of many episodes here. We're gonna give it a bit of a shake. There we go. That was some vicious shaking. And I'm going to reach my hand in, we're going to still swabble them around a bit, see what we get. I'm not even going to say what I want, because it'll probably mean I won't get it. I might not get it anyway, but it'll probably be less of a chance. I'm trying to kind of go to the back. I don't want to grab that one on my finger. I want to grab this one that I've grabbed right from the back. Okay, what is this going to be? I don't know which way around it is. I think it's that way. I can kind of see the text, but I can't see what it is. Our next review on the channel is The End of the World. Okay, a 9th Doctor episode, the second ever episode of the new series. I'm happy with that. I would have liked to have a Capaldi, because I haven't watched a Capaldi in quite a while, but I'm happy to not have an 11th Doctor episode. I don't really want to do back-to-back Doctors. So yeah, The End of the World, 9th Doctor from Series 1, of course. I'm looking forward to that. That'll be our review for next week. Anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, link is in the description, and I'll see you guys in the next video.